Hello, lovely people. Today we will be looking at some Chinese beryllium tweeters. Now, I did this because we're not sure if it's actually beryllium or not, because according to the price, they shouldn't be, because we know that beryllium is very, very expensive. I'm not in my usual kitchen place because it's very, very cold outside and I'm warming up next to the radiator. So, first of all, again, thank you, Frank from Hepa King, for sending me these. He has like interest in everything. So he sends me Amplify, he sends me some of these. Okay, so what do we have here? Here we have 5 tweeters, and all of them are slightly different. So let's talk about beryllium, like in general. Why beryllium is such an amazing material to have a tweeter made of. So tweeters, especially dome tweeters like these, you see you have domes. They have what is called a cone breakup. Like actually every speaker has a cone breakup. And that cone breakup introduces distortion and non-linearity in the frequency response. So ideally we want the cone breakup to be out of audible listening range. So we want them like above 20 kilohertz, ideally. And this is achieved by using different materials. So if we are very familiar with, so these are not car audio drivers, but the principle is exactly the same because car audio is just smaller size with smaller magnets. So I'm using just like, you can call them home audio because like this is massive, but in general. So we're all familiar with silk dome tweeters or soft dome tweeters. So soft dome tweeter is kind of famous for being I don't want to call soft sounding, but like gentle sounding. Metal dome tweeters are much harsher because they might, some of them, the cheaper ones, especially if you have like aluminium or whatever, aluminium magnesium alloys, for some of them, the cone breakup can be in the audible range, which is like 18, 19 kilohertz, and it sounds very harsh and very like not pleasant in general. So soft dome tweeters like silk, they have the cone breakup, but it's not as harsh, so it's a bit more flatter response. Now we come to these, which are called ring radiators. So if you see like a dome, it's like a dome, and this has like a ring around it, and the ring it looks similar to like a surround, because if you move this tweeter, you can see this ring moves and the central part is fixed. So one of the most famous probably ring radiators is the SB29 that I had previously in my install, and they perform exceptionally well. So ring radiator is kind of good because it doesn't really have a cone breakup, and it sounds more pleasant, so you can push it a bit harder. Now, if you want to have a dome, because dome is a good shape for a tweeter for dispersion, so if you want to have a dome tweeter that has very high frequency for the cone breakup, you need an extremely stiff material. So for like mid ranges and mid basses, manufacturers use metals like aluminium or sometimes they use like much stronger materials like Kevlar or carbon fiber. So like my Alpine Status has carbon fiber cones just to push that cone breakup into higher frequencies. And one of the strongest materials, apart from diamond, which I think, which was it? Focal has diamond tweeters. So one of the strongest is beryllium, and it's very brittle material and is super expensive. And beryllium tweeters are considered to be one of the best sounding ones. However, they're bloody expensive. So like ScanSpeak and others make them for like, oh man, how much they cost? $300, $500 a piece. And these are supposed to be China-made beryllium tweeters. Then they cost about $100, so like 3 or 5 times less. So in between these tweeters, we have this is SB Acoustics SB19, which is a extremely budget tweeter. It costs probably like £20, £30. Extremely budget tweeter, but very well regarded in the budget range. It has like very nice response and everything, and is just a very nice tweeter to have. Super, super cheap. This one is a ring radiator from China with double magnets. It's a massive, massive tweet. I don't know why they make it like this. This one costs about, Frank said, about $30. So it's kind of cheap. So we're going to see how it performs. And then these, in between these, we have, so you see this one, it has a shiny cone. So this is supposed to be some kind of ceramic or something. And it is 8 ohm, 30 watts. I don't know the brand, but this one is a bit cheaper. I'm not sure about the price of this one, but this is supposed to be a ceramic tweeter, so not beryllium. And these two are supposed to be beryllium tweeters, and they're supposed to be like, I don't want to see kind of knockoffs of the original ScanSpeak and other tweeters. And so this one, for example, has some markings on it. D25P01, and this one has absolutely nothing, no markings whatsoever. So, and you can see that these look very, very similar, and this one as well. So this is kind of the same. Yeah, the magnets are pushing each other. Strong magnets. And these are supposed to be beryllium tweeters because they have a cone that has that kind of grayish beryllium color. And the main question is it real beryllium? Is it like, because it's not going to be, it cannot be 100% real beryllium or like the composition 100% just because of the price, because beryllium is very, very expensive, even in China. So from the descriptions, I think Frank said that these are supposed to be like 5% beryllium or something. But yeah, so how do we know if it's beryllium or something else? What we will be looking at, I'm going to measure these tweeters. So in this video, we will be measuring tweeters and we're going to compare the impedance, frequency response, and distortion measurements. And beryllium's supposed to have cone breakup in very, very high frequencies, so like 30 or 40K. So we will measure and we will see that. Now the question probably arises, how you're going to measure so high? So UMIC, that one that I have, UMIC measures up to 20K just because it's limited by the sound card that it has installed, because it's a USB microphone, so it has an internal sound card. So it is limited to 48K, so it can measure only up to 20K. Now, if we want to measure higher, we need to use an audio interface and an XLR microphones, because those are not limited. So if I'm gonna measure with a sound card up to 96K, I can measure up to like close to 50 kilohertz. Now, it's not going to be calibrated, so it's not going to be like precise measurement, but we don't really need that, because what we want to see is, the only thing we want to see is the cone breakup. And if it's going to be like plus or 5 minus dB according to what is supposed to be calibrated, it doesn't really matter, because we want to see the cone breakup. And will we see the cone breakup? Or will not, we're gonna see. So I had a look on these because Frank sent me the links where he bought them. They provide frequency response graph, and in that frequency response, there is a massive peak at 30 kilohertz. So we're gonna see if we're gonna measure this. And sometime later, because this measurement that I'm gonna do now is not gonna be like perfect, because I will be measuring just literally in free air with a microphone near field, because if you want to measure the correct frequency response of a tweeter, or if you want to do any kind of listening test, they have to be in a baffle, and that baffle has to be recessed so that the tweeter would be like flush with the baffle, because if you have a lip or something, or if you're going to measure like this, you're going to have a thing called edge diffraction, and it's not going to be accurate. But for these measurements that I'm going to do, which is literally near field, is going to be perfectly fine, because edge diffraction is going to happen on lower frequencies and the linearity doesn't really matter. For this specific test, I will do proper frequency response measurements later on a baffle and everything, and then I'm going to do actual listening tests to compare A/B between all of these tweeters. But for our purpose, to see the cone breakup, I can measure them near field, in air, just holding by hand, and it's going to be totally fine. So I think without any further ado, we're going to jump into the laptop, and I'm going to show you what I measured. Okay, let's have a look at all the measurements. So what we have here, I just color code different drivers in different colors. So we have SB19 in green, then we have the Chinese ceramic one in dark blue, two berylliums, one in teal, one in magenta, and the ring radiator in red, because why not? So let's start with impedance. SB19, sorry, has this impedance graph, which looks like very typical. We have an FS, which is very low, about 1000 hertz. I think it's like 950 or 970 in the manual. I'm not sure, I don't remember, but it's quite low. So it's typical for home audio drivers have a low FS, whereas car audio have slightly higher, not all of them, but smaller tweeters, metal dome tweeters, they're gonna have an FS of like 2000, some of them even like 3000 hertz. So yeah, but even some car audio tweeters have very low FS in like 700, 600, 500 hertz and that kind of stuff. So we have this. Now the ceramic tweeter has a very low FS of about 540, 550 hertz, and it's according to the manual, which is fine. However, we have still another hump here, not sure why, and we have like a nominal impedance of them, maybe we can say about 6 ohms. So yeah, it's according to the manual. The SB19 has a 4 ohm tweeter, so this is a bit higher, so 6 ohms, fine. Now one of the berylliums, the no-name beryllium, kinda the same, very low FS, 500 something, and again it's a 6 ohm tweeter. Another beryllium is a bit different, so it has a different Q, slightly higher FS of close to like 600, but still, so we can say that all of them, apart from this, they are 6 to 8 ohm tweeters, so slightly higher impedance, which is kind of typical for home audio. And the important, the interesting thing with the ring radiator is I don't have an impedance, like I don't have a peak in the impedance graph, which is extremely bizarre, and I have absolutely no idea why that is. If anybody knows what is the reason behind it, please comment below, because I have absolutely no idea why that is. So it's dips below 4 ohms, 3.5 ohms or something, and it has no peak. Why? I don't know. So yes, I did measure these tweeters from 200 hertz, and again, when you're doing impedance sweeps, it's extremely low power, so it's not going to damage them or anything, so it's totally fine. Now, can you play these tweeters down to 500 hertz? Obviously not. You would want to cross them at least like 1K or above, like 1.5K. But yes, these tweeters are extremely capable. They can play down to 1K easy, and we're going to see that from the distortion measurements. So next, one thing that I want to point out, if we remove this, yeah, so SB17, like this. Now for the beryllium, we have something happening like here. If you see this little blip, 2.4K, a little blip. So every blip in the impedance graph, it's kind of a bad thing. Another blip we can see here as well, so it's not really that perfect. For the ceramic, we have a tiny blip like in this area, and for the other beryllium is much smoother response. Okay, so this is the impedance. Now let's have a look at the frequency response, probably because it's kind of interesting. SB19, I did this in near field on low power. So kind of ignore the, like this for example, or all of this jaggedness, because if you would want to have a normal frequency response, again, as I mentioned, you have to have them in the baffle, flush mounted, and from 1 meter and that kind of stuff. This is near field just to see this peak. And these measurements were done with an XLR microphone and an audio interface with 96K. So you can see the measurement goes all the way up to 48 kilohertz. Now, obviously, it drops off because it's not calibrated, but we don't need that. It's perfectly fine. And we can see that the SB19 has a cone breakup at exactly like spot on 20 kilohertz. And this is like the soft dome. Now, let's compare it to the ceramic tweeter. The ceramic, something like this. Don't look at this part like below like 10K. This is not important for us. For us is important this. And you can see that this one has some nasty breakups way below 20 kilohertz in the audible range. So the cone breakup starts at like 12 and a bit kilohertz, which is not ideal, way far from ideal. And another breakup is here at 19K. So this is, yeah, it's not very nice to have cone breakup like here. Some cheaper metal dome tweeters is gonna have something similar like this, but yeah, it's pretty bad. Now let's have a look at the so-claimed beryllium. So there's one, and there is the other one. Now, again, with these, this above 20, like this dip, I don't know why it's there, but we can see that we have all the way up to 20K. Everything is perfectly smooth. Now, yes, it's jaggedness, but this is because of reflections and stuff. So again, it's not perfect, but we can see up to 20K, it's very, very good. If you compare this with this one, you can see that there's a peak because of this. And with these, both of them, the so-claimed beryllium, we do indeed have a cone breakup at 31K, which is kind of supports the claim that they're made of beryllium, or at least some other material. If it's not pure beryllium, it's some other material that is very, very extremely stiff. And yes, the cone breakup is really, really high. So we can say that Chinese beryllium is actually beryllium. At least this is my claim. If you have any other explanation, why do you have cone breakups in such high frequency if the material is not beryllium? Please feel free to comment, because I might be mistaken. I'm not a professional. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. But my conclusion, that this is actually beryllium. And again, don't look at this. What we're interested in this. And if we compare, let's take just one beryllium with the silk, this one, we see a big, massive difference, whereas one in 20K and the other one is at 30K. Now, the ring radiator is this, which corresponds to the SB19. They're almost identical because probably both of them use silk or something. I think it's silk material, and you have cone breakup at about 20K. There's a slight peak here, but this peak, I think it might be caused because of the face plug. Now let's have a look at the distortion measurements. So I did the distortion measurements on 3 different levels, like I want to say low, medium, and high. So for example, SB19 will have low, medium, and high. So if my microphone was calibrated correctly, the UMIC, it kind of corresponds to 90 dB, 100 dB, and 110 dB. So 110 dB is like ear-piercing loud. It's really, really loud, like really pushing the drivers to the limits. Now let's have a look at like medium. So all of these, I'm just gonna enable all of them. You can see that the difference, like it is like 5 dB difference between each of them. However, I did measure them from the same distance in the same place, and they have very different like characteristics. And it was really difficult to align all of them. So what I did, I just ran them on the same power. And I know it's not fair because you can see that the ring radiator is 4 ohm, this B19 is 4 ohm, and these are 6 ohm drivers. However, if you compare it like one by one, like these match in this area and this, here is a difference. If I compare it to this, so this matches here, however, these two match almost perfectly. And like, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to align them because in some places they do match and in some places like they don't. So I just, for ease of comparison, I just left it like this. So yes, 5 dB difference in some places, and in some places they measure exactly the same. So again, for my amateur measurements, I think it's gonna be fine. So let's have a look at the distortion overlay, and we're gonna have a look at THD and in 3 different levels. So let's start with the low level. Low level is like this. So for low levels, we can see that all the tweeters are kind of 0.2% range. This one. Apart from this, so the ring radiator has the highest distortion from all of them, which goes all the way up there. So if I'm going to remove this one, because it is the highest, then we have SB19, which has the highest as well. See, especially like in the higher frequencies above like 3K. Again, the distortion below like 1K is not that important, but what's important is the trend. Where is it going? So we will know how high can we cross it. So like, for example, if we take the SB19, we can see that you would want to cross it probably. Let's remove all of these just to have a look. Probably you want to cross it like at 1K, not lower, because we can see the trend that the distortion is going up. So we want to cross it just to remove all of this distortion. And it has slightly more here. However, if we have a look at, like, for example, which one is it? This one. This one, you can cross it all the way down to 700 hertz because the distortion rises only below 700 hertz, so it can play much lower. So from all of these, the ring radiator has the highest distortion, then the SB19, and then these 3, the ceramic and one of the berylliums, they're kind of almost identical. It's just that ceramic doesn't play that low, but this beryllium is very flat. However, this no-name beryllium, if we cross it a bit higher, like at 1K, this one has slightly lower distortion than the named beryllium DP20. Yeah, let's have a look at medium. Actually, let's jump straight to the high levels, because this, I think it's the important part when you push the drivers, when you really push it. So all of them, we can see that distortion is above 1%. The ring radiator is doing the worst, which is like here. Even if you cross it, the ring radiator at 3K, just to remove all of that, it still has highest distortion. So the ring radiator is the worst. Then on high levels, you can see that the SB19 holds on pretty well. It's very well. It's matching with all the others. However, at lower frequencies, again, it's highest, but you would want to cross it no lower than 1K. So SB19 does pretty well. Now, how are these doing? The ceramic one has probably the highest of these 3, but very similar to the beryllium. But again, since the ceramic one has a cone breakup like between 10 and 20, this, the very top end, is not going to be that very nice. But from these, we can see that the no-name beryllium has the lowest distortion, quite lower, below 1%, whereas the other beryllium is at 1.5%. So this is nice. However, they separate at lower frequencies. So the named beryllium can play much lower, again down to like 700 hertz or so. Whereas this one, the distortion ramps up below 1K. Let's have a look at the medium level, because it's in the middle of the screen, at the harmonics. So we have the second harmonic, which is exactly the same like THD. So it's dominated. The THD is dominated by the second harmonic. There's no difference, exactly the same like THD. Or the third harmonic shows a different picture. So we see that the SB19 has the highest third harmonic, especially like above 2K, all the way there, which is the highest. Then the second highest is going to be the ring radiator again. So it has lower third harmonic at lower frequencies, but at a higher frequency, especially like this peak, I don't know why, 3.5K, it has the highest third. So let's remove this. And then, so you see these grayed out, that means it's below the noise floor, which is very, very low. The ceramic one, I want to say, has like the highest here, but lower here. And between these two, yeah, the no name has the lowest, and the known with the name, the beryllium, has higher. So this one is quite good. If we compare to this, yes, higher, higher, way higher. Okay, let's actually check this on our power levels. Yeah, the same. So the ring radiator has the highest third, then the SB19, then the ceramic, and these two berylliums are very similar, but the no-name beryllium has the lowest third harmonic, which is kind of cool. If we have a look here as well, let's have a look at medium levels. Yeah, so I just rearranged slightly so I would have all of these here, so we can see like the second harmonic is together with a THD at 1%. This is high level. SB19, we have the third one. When we switch to the ceramic, we can see that the ceramic drops the third harmonic here. The THD is kind of the same, but the third harmonic drops all the way there. Now I'm going to leave the cursor at 1K just to have a look. Yeah, it drops the third harmonic at the higher frequencies. Now one of the berylliums is kind of even lower. This is much lower, and the ring radiator is much higher. Yeah, so from all of these, it looks like the no-name beryllium is kind of the best of these, and it is better than the SB19, which is interesting. So I think, as Frank mentioned, one of them cost, I'm not sure which one of them cost $100, and the other one cost $80. And yeah, if you compare the named beryllium with no name beryllium, just to have a look again very quickly, THD, yeah, the no name slightly lower THD, but again, the no name doesn't play that low. With the named, you can play much lower. Let's have a look at the impedance very quickly, just to remind myself. So impedance named and impedance no named. So no name cannot play, well, it can play below 1. So no name you would want to cross above 1. The named you can cross at 800 hertz. So no name and named. Yeah, so this one with a lower peak, you could cross it lower. And this one needs to be crossed higher, because obviously it has much higher resonance, even if it's kind of the same frequency. Since you have a much higher resonance peak, you would want to cross it higher, and this one can be crossed lower. And again, a frequency response, beryllium, this one, and no name beryllium, yeah, they're kind of identical, the frequency responses, which is kind of cool. So the winner is no named beryllium. So let's go through these again, because now you can kind of visualize all of them. This one is the worst one. obviously. $30. It would be interesting to test the actual frequency response of Axis because it has this face plug, which is very, very sharp. Ouchie. But yeah, this is pretty bad. This from SB19, from a price point of view, it's amazing. Like for 20, 30 pounds, you cannot ask for more. This one, which is a ceramic. So ceramic dome, eh, it's kind of okay, but the only issue is that it has the cone breakup right in the audible range. It is high, between 10 and 20 kilohertz, but it's still in the audible range. So this would be a big no-no. CU1 to C12, whatever. This is 8 ohm, but it's actually 6. But yeah, so this is a no. Now, these are two berylliums. They look identical. The main difference between them, as we saw, is the ability to play lower. So this one with the actual label D25P01, this can play lower. And this one with absolutely no branding, no nothing. I'm gonna try to ask Frank for a link of this exact tweeter, and I'm gonna leave it in the video description so you could check it out because again, no marking, no nothing. But this is the best performer. As long as you cross it like at 1 kilohertz or something. So for home audio, that's ideal. If you want to pair it with a 6.5 or an 8-inch midi bass driver, like in a two-way bookshelf. So this is very, very cool. Yeah, no name, but it's cool. So I think one of them, again, it costs 80, the other one $20, but I'm not sure which one. I guess this no name is going to be cheaper one, maybe, but I would choose the no name over this. Unless you really, really need to cross it low. If you want to cross it like a 700 hertz or something, then you would choose this one. But I don't know where you would utilize this, maybe with a 10-inch mid-bass driver or something like that. But again, these are kind of home audio. In Asia, in the Far East, they are putting these massive, massive tweeters in A-pillars. But look at the size of it. It's massive. It's big. If you have space for it, yeah, go full tilt. But yeah, the thing is, I would like to send this to Adam because Adam had, or maybe he still has, the actual original ScanSpeak Beryllium tweeters. So he could do like a better comparison, maybe to do a write-up or something about this. But yeah, very, very interesting. Or maybe I'm going to ask Adam to send one of his tweeters to me, and then I'm going to compare with the actual genuine Beryllium tweeter. Yeah, interesting stuff. I'm going to end it up here. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.